Hi, Zizaran here with another video, and this is pretty fun. This crazy build was something I saw pretty recently. Paak made this. Frankly, I haven't finished how I feel like my version of the build should look yet. I still want to work on it a little bit. There's another video where I was prepping for this, and the start of the respec for this. I can maybe pop the video there, but it's basically the one where I got to maps in 4 hours, and it was like 2 hours to level 70. So I leveled with armor brand and cremation, and then did a big respec. And now this is where we're at with the build right now. I'm not super happy with my version right now because I did a different tank than other people, and I don't really want to compromise on the tank. I did just find a max stress relic as well, so maybe like doing Zabakwa is something I could do. It's the Divine Flesh Keystone from Legion. But either way, it's very, very interesting to play. And I wanted to show it off a little bit on a map. This is a tier 16, obviously I see still on the right with a bunch of mods. And I have been doing like the easy bosses, like, you know, XR, Eater, Shaper, like it does those fine. I don't really know how much damage I have right now. I haven't really looked it up. I'd say somewhere between 2 and 3 million right now, which is too low for what I want. But I am incredibly tanky. Even with 4.5k life, this build is actually tankier than my champion, which has like 6.5k life. And Fortify. The only hole in this character's defenses at the moment is physical. So what I want to do there is I want to get a endurance charge grand spectrum, a frenzy grand spectrum, then either a life or a ailment grand spectrum and get ailment immunity through that. So I still have some things that I'm experimenting with on this build. Now I do want to like find more things, but it's a pretty interesting build and it's kind of similar to Bane, but it's actually a poison build. And we're using the Vixen Entrapment Gloves. I figured I could like show it, talk about it. And I'll go kill the boss real quick now. And sure. And then we'll show you what we've been doing so far. So the problem right now is the single target. Which is fine, I guess. I would just want it to be finer. So let me walk you through the build a little bit. So this is my chest. And I have a lore weave, and this is the main damage support gem, basically. I am using Impending Doom, and trigger the skill when a hex from supported skills end. So how are we forcing things to end? And Paak has like a really big FAQ that we'll link to that actually like explains exactly how everything works. And a lot of it is pretty complicated, as well as things like cast speed, cooldown recovery, and things like that. Because not only do the Vixens have a cooldown, but so does Doom Blast. Which a lot of people don't know that Doom Blast has charges. So the way that we're making Impending Doom work is we're casting Temp Chains, and then that casts Punishment, Enfeeble, and Despair. That's 4 curses, and we have a curse limit of 3, and that is what makes the build work. And that's why having more curses wouldn't work either. So this is really, really interesting, because this curse, and the sockets are very specific, like this literally needs to be this way, because now punishment gets forced out. Basically becomes a filler curse, and that makes Impending Doom work. So it's a little bit convoluted and complicated, but basically the Temp Chains, the Enfeeble, and the Despair ends up staying on the monsters, which is good. So what's really interesting here is Gucci is experimenting a little bit with the order, and he's actually having Enfeeble here and casting Enfeeble, and then having Temp Chains here. He feels like that's more damage. It's a little bit complicated because they are supposed to stay on. So it's still a build that's very much being figured out. I know Rue has this, I think he leveled it to 100 already. So it's a very good softcore build as well. You can get a lot of damage. And I just wanted to make like an early video about it for what I'm doing right now and what are my planned changes. But either way, this is my setup at the moment. You can import the characters Zizaran blasting maps. And we'll have a link to the POB of what it is right now in the video. We do have an Awaken Unbound Ailments, which is very cool. Very excited for that. Anything with Temp Chains and Despair is very, very strong this patch. Now, Ice Fang Orbit, that's more of an experimental pick. It frees up 1 skill point, basically. And I wanted to try the chilled when you're poisoned. Or like, non-chilled enemies you poison or chilled. But I feel like we're already hitting action speed cap with Temp Chains. So I'd probably just get a beefy juicy ring instead. So I might replace that. Big sense. I mean, you can get a +1 or +2 curse gems, and that would be good. My belt, we're using EB for this build. We're actually taking it naturally on the tree. So the regen is basically just so that we actually have mana. And Apex Rage like chugs mana pretty hard. Now Apex is not best in slot and seems very overpriced on Trade League because you obviously can get a really good weapon. The flat fizz, like the flat chaos, sorry, is insane. Like that is so much damage. However, the poisons you inflict deals damage. That's just good on monsters that are gonna die fast. Because if you're doing like something like Maven or something, right? This isn't making me do more damage. It's just making me do more damage faster. So it ups my DPS, but not my damage. It doesn't even up my DPS really. It ups my DPS over a short time frame, is what I'm trying to say. It's not like Ignites, where we're always replaying the Ignite. And the takeaway here is just poison stack infinitely. And that's why Apex Rage is beatable. A big issue is we can't get +1 all gems. We can't get +1 chaos gems because Impending Doom is a support. So the biggest thing we can do is double corrupting our chest and getting +1 gems or +2 AoE gems. And that would work. Now, let's talk a little bit about what I'm doing different with the build. So I thought this sounded really, really cool to do on Occultist, especially with Steel Mage suggested doing Eternal Damnation Lore Wave, and I was like, yeah, that actually sounds really good. Let's do this with this build. So the way Eternal Damnation works is it all your max res -5, but elemental damage reduction equal to half your chaos res. Now with a Lore Wave, all of this is 78, so first they have to go through my 78 ally resistances, and then they get a 39% reduced damage after that, and then if it's a spell, it's another 50% reduced damage. Now, this is a little overkill. I am actually looking to get rid of my spell suppression because I also have Enfeeble on top of that. So after all of that, it gets like a life curse effect. So it's like normal monsters get like 35, 40% less damage, and then curse rare enemies are like 25 or 30 or something. Quite a lot. So it's a crazy multi-layered defense. And oh, and I obviously, while mapping, I have 20k armor, 25k evasion. So we're very, very, very tanky right now. We are very tanky. The biggest hole is Fizz. Fizz is very sketchy. So, to fix that, obviously, like I said, I wanted ground spectrums. However, what I want to do is, this shield is really nice. It's actually kind of sad to give up because it has 7% Fizz reduction. But I don't need the suppression. And I found it Series Reflection. And this is pretty much best for the build. Like, that's a lot of damage in a build that does curses. Gives me all res, gives me really nice ES for my Eldritch Battery. I no longer need that craft on the belt. And I can go cooldown recovery instead, which is obviously big for the build. One of the things that I'm missing is one of these, the Balance of Terror. One of them is something like cooldown recovery increased by 30% or 25% if you cast Temporal Chains in the past 10 seconds. That's like the one I really want. At the moment, I'm just getting Freeze Immunity from this. And a really good combo with using this with Lore Weave is Lore Weaves are so easy for me to make in Double Corrupt. So I've Double Corrupted like a few of them now. I think some of them breaked. I have this one ready to Double Corrupt. It just need to be Divine. This one had White Sockets. This one had +2 Curse Gems, which you'd think would be really good, but this is not a Curse Gem. So I do have to keep doing it until ideally I get +2, +1. And that would be a huge damage boost. It would literally be the same as getting an extra link. Or even slightly more than getting an extra link. So very, very strong. For the helmet, again, I have suppression and no enchant, but then duration of ailments and Temp Chain's curse effect. I would love to get... I'd probably, instead of the duration of ailments, end up doing physical damage taken as fire, cold, or lightning. Not as chaos, but fire, cold, or lightning. I could also think about doing Zabakwa. There's a lot of things we can think about doing with this build. But yeah, absolute blast to play this build so far. Really enjoying it. But yeah, I just wanted to make a quick video about this build. Absolute blast to play so far. Don't really know what I'm going to do about the spell suppression, but I'm planning on ditching it, getting more cast speed, getting more damage, getting more life. And obviously ground spectrums would help. So I just figured I would make like a video about this so far. So you already have the video for how to level it. That is what I recommend to do, because you can't really do this until Blood Aqueduct, and then the respec should be in the video too, what I did early. This is a 4-hour video, so you'd have to skip through it. And this is my skill tree at the moment at 96. We'll have that in the POB. This is very, very not handholdy. And if I play more and do a lot more on this build, I will make like a more in-depth step-by-step guide. I wanted to give something and upload the POB and stuff for the ones that do want something less handholdy but want something now. So, thanks for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.